Well, that's it for my end of things. So this is now time for me to relax, sit back, be the student, and introduce you to Sharon Jurd. Now, Sharon's been around for, I was going to say for a long time, but that just doesn't quite sound right. But she's been in the business space, and the online space for most of her working life, and she's a coach. She's an author. But what some of you may not know is that she runs an international franchise with businesses over 30 countries. So franchises are called HydroKleen. She's very well respected in the franchise circles and very well known there. She's got a real head for business, a lot of experience, and she's got some real wisdom to share with us tonight. So it's my pleasure to hand over to you, Sharon, to chat to us about creating our stories in business. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I hope that all of you guys can hear me really well. I'm just going to share my screen now and we'll get started on the presentation. I have a little PowerPoint presentation, but I'm not going to bamboozle you with loads and loads of information there, because we're talking about storytelling tonight. And can everyone see my screen now? Is that working okay? Good, thank you. You always check in with these technologies because, you know, it works one day and then the next day it's like, whoops. So I want to start off by saying, Nick mentioned the 101 things that your VA can do for you. I too have a team in the Philippines, so I have 6 team members full-time working for me. I have 2 IT, 2 content writers, a designer, graphic designer, and a video editor. So, and the longest guy, my IT guy, Kevin, he's been working with me for 6 years. My graphic designer's 5, just going on 5.5 years. So, you know, if you're thinking about, you know, getting great support around you, grab that book and get started on it. So, but I want to start with my presentation tonight. We're going to be talking about the 6 steps to designing your story. And so the first thing I wanted to do was actually share with you a bit of my story. I'll just click that and make sure that's working. So I want to take you back to, it was 2012. And I was running HydroKleen, as Nick said. It's actually topped 44 countries now. HydroKleen has, but back in 2012, we were 2 years in. We were just a national company. And a friend of mine, his name is Pat Mesiti. I don't know whether anyone knows Pat. But he is this little guy. He's about 5'1", and he's like this little Energizer bunny, and he never, you know, stops, you know, running around and doing all sorts of stuff at 100 great knots, and so you know, he's a character in himself. And please don't judge me, but I met him back in the 1990s. And he, every time he when he was living in Sydney, come up to the Gold Coast, he would call up and arrange for us to either go to lunch or go to have a coffee or so forth. And this particular time in 2012, he called me up and we met up to go for lunch, and we went over to the marina in the Gold Coast here. So has everyone been to the marina at the Gold Coast, or you know where I'm talking about, over near Versace? So we went to the restaurant along there where you know, you can sit right along the water and the boats are right there on the marina. And if you know you've been to the marina, you sit there and it's beautiful to look over the boats, and you can you know, you can hear them just bumping, you know, up against the marina, you know, as you sit there, and there's that bumping sound around, you know, the boats, and it's so relaxing. And this day, Pat said to me, you know, what are you doing? And I knew what he was asking me, but I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, you know, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm running, you know, a national franchise company. It's the fastest growing franchise in its industry in Australia right now. What do you mean, what am I doing? And he said, you're being lazy. And it was like, oh, like he was a really good friend of mine, and he knew that by calling me lazy was going to really hurt. It really dug into my heart. And I was like, what? And in my head, I was saying, you know, why did you say that? Why, you know, you know that would hurt me. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm lazy? I kept asking, what do you mean? What do you mean? And he said, you know, you could do that with your eyes closed, Sharon. He said, you're just mulling around in your nice little comfort zone. He said, you can just do it like that. He said, you need to be out, you know, sharing with other people how to grow businesses, how to, you know, sell, how to, you know, grow themselves. And I was like, I just told you what I'm doing. I have a full-time role, more than a full-time role, growing this franchise. And he was like, eh. Anyway, and I had the shits with him, right? So here I was having lunch, and he knew I had the shits because I didn't have dessert. I was just like, I'm out of there. Anyway, see you later, Pat. Mwah, see ya. I'm off, you know. And you know how when you've been in a situation and then it mulls around afterwards saying, you know, saying to myself, I should have said this and I should have said that, and you know, and next time I see him, I'm going to say this, and you know that you've been there, right? You've been there where this is going around in your head. And I was like, how could he even suggest that I go and do something else when I'm so busy? There's no way. I have not got time. I couldn't fit another thing in. But, you know, during the night, here I was whirling it around in my head, still going over the conversation, telling myself all the reasons why, you know, I couldn't go and do this. And so, you know, I was still angry with Pat, and I hadn't finished the conversation. Like, he may have thought so, but I was like, yeah, I've got more to say. So the next day I called him up. And I said, Pat, and he goes, I said, did you? And he goes, cut me off, and he said, yep, I called you lazy. And I was like, oh, man, like he did. I said, what do you mean? He said, I told you. He said, you're just sitting in your comfort zone. He said, just mulling along. He said, you can do that with your eyes closed. He said, you need to be doing more. You need to be sharing this out, Sharon. You need to be sharing with other people how they can grow their businesses, how to sell, and so forth. I said, not happening. He said, I'm holding a 3-day event in Sydney. Come on down. I was like, gotcha. If anyone knows Pat, he is selling all the time. I'm like, you're just wanting to sell me a ticket to your event, Pat. He's like, come for free. I was like, he's not selling me something. So I said, okay, I'll come, but I'll pay. So I toddled off to Sydney to his event, and I got down there, and I sat in the very back seat, in the back row on the aisle, right at the back. Now, if you've been to Pat's events, it is rah-rah. So the music is loud, you're jumping and you're cheering, you're dancing around. So I sat my stuff down in the seat right at the back. Anyway, Pat's up on stage, you know, getting everyone, you know, excited for what's about to come, and he spots me. Anyway, so he comes running down to the back, and he's going, Sharon, what the freaking hell are you doing down here? I said, I don't even know why I'm here. And he said, go down the front. And I said, no, I'm not even sure why I'm here. I don't think I should have come. You know, I just, you know, I'm going to stay here. Anyway, he's on stage, right? So he's cheering, off he goes. And I stayed at the back of the room. Over that 3 days, that event was around speaking from stage and sharing content and teaching people how to sell from stage. That weekend, I decided to play full out. in that moment when, you know, we were told that we had to get up on stage and speak in front of people, and I'd spoken in front of people 1,001 times. I've told them about HydroKleen, you know, and I had my dialogues down pat. But in that moment, I decided to play full out. And I decided to talk about Sharon Jurd events. Now, I made that name up. I plucked it out of my rear end, but I decided that if I was going to be talking from stage like Pat has suggested, then I was going to have a brand. I couldn't stand up underneath the HydroKleen hat. Now, in that moment, I could have went, I'll take the easy road and just talk about HydroKleen and then work it out with Sharon Jurd events at home. But I decided to get up and really play full out and decided to talk about Sharon Jurd events. And that was something I knew nothing about, but wanted to take that leap. So I get home and still I'm like, you know, I've got this full-time job, but now I'm really motivated to do something. Now, how many of you have been to an event, you've got really, you know, motivated, and it pats, it's rah, 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 and you come home and you go, well, that's all great, but now I'm back into my life. And you don't really take it on, yeah. But it was late in the year and it was really warm, so I was out the back near my pool, and I had, here on the Gold Coast, I had this home with a really large pool. It was like a resort pool. It had the waterfall on the end, had the spa on the other end, and it was just like it was just my own oasis, my little resort in my home. And I was sitting out the back in the pool yard on, you know, on my layback chair. I was like, how can I make this happen? If I really want this to happen, then things have got to change. And in that moment, I got, you know, all of these ideas started coming in my head. So I jumped up, ran inside, grabbed a pen and paper, came back and started jotting down all the things that I needed to do, look at, or act upon to make it happen, that I could have this business of sharing how to grow businesses and how to grow yourself and how to sell. You know, and I wrote things down like, you know, who did I have to hire in HydroKleen to get me out? And I'm proud to say I had to hire 3 people to get me out to do my job. But I did. I started to take action on that. And then during that time, I really developed systems and processes around removing me from my business and allowing it to flourish in someone else's care. And today, you know, which led me to coaching and speaking. You know, I've authored 2 number 1 best-selling international books. I share, you know, exactly what I do in my business on a daily basis. I don't teach things that I did 10 or 20 years ago. What I do is I teach things that I'm doing right now, because I've still got my sleeves rolled up and my hands dirty in my businesses. And so I went out coaching and speaking, and my business just exploded. And I developed, but what I found was I was telling this story, but I really didn't have it structured. You know, I was trying to be Pat being a rah-rah. I was trying to be, you know, other people that I aspired to. And it was just becoming messy. And what I wanted to do was develop a system where I could share it with other people. And that's what I've done. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today, how I take people who have a story and I work with them to build their story in a very succinct, strategic way. So when they're on stage, their audiences will sit up, take notice, and take action. So who's ready to hear about my 6 steps? I'm so excited to share this with you. And I get excited every time I share this, because once you know the strategy around sharing your story, everyone is going to, you know, have this feeling of being with you in the story, with understanding you. And they'll sort of just say things like, I get it. I get you. I get why you do this. And I'm going to share with you the very tips and tricks that I share at my Grow Your Speaking Biz workshop. I run this workshop. It's 3 days, once a year. I'm not here to sell you into that. There's no sell. I've done it for this year. It's not on until August next year. But I'm going to share with you one part of that. So this is the entire 3-day process, and I share everything that you need to know from stage. And today what we're going to do is talk about the storytelling part, the ultimate storytelling system that I've designed so it's fail-proof. Because some of you might be going, oh yeah, that's good to design a story. I am still shit scared about getting on stage in any format to share any kind of content. Well, when you design your story in this way, you know exactly how it's going, exactly where you're going to end up, whether it be online or offline, on stage, off stage, and you will absolutely know the results. And there's only 6 little steps. So let's get started. The 6 S's of storytelling. If you've got a pen and paper, get it out, because we're gonna, I'm gonna be sharing this information with you, and you can write it down so you can design your story as soon as you get off this call. So the first step, I'm going to have questions, along the way. I'm just not seeing the chat box right now, so you'll have to excuse me, but I will bring it back up on my screen in a little minute. If you want to unmute yourself and ask me a question as we go along, I'm happy to answer because I will be able to hear you. So this is the first step. The first step is the scene. So whenever you're going to start your story, you must set the scene. Where were you, and what's going on for you? So if we look at my story, I'm going to break my Pat story down, right? So in my story with Pat, what year was it, and where was I? Let me just see if I can get the chat box up here somehow. Let me just have a look here. Just give me a second. I'm going to click around here and get the chat. It's not going to bring it up for me because I'm sharing the screen here. Okay, but you can take yourself off mute if you want. Where was I? What was I doing? Oh, hang on. I might be able to get it over here.
I can see the chat.
Okay.
Can you read some stuff out, or have you got it?
Yeah. Could you help me with that, Nick? Because it's just not coming up.
Okay, so where were you? 2012 resort style pool in your backyard. There was some rain.
Yeah, that was another scene. But I was at the marina, remember?
At the marina, yes. Victoria said that.
Because the boats were bumping, right? So when you're setting a scene, you must cover off on the visual, the audio, and the kinesthetic. So it's what can they see, what can they hear, what can they feel. So even though you can't see it, but what you want to do is build a picture in their mind so that they know where you're at. Now, when I say marina, you use what we call universal. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but we use universal examples. And what I mean by that is something that most people can relate to. So when I talk about a marina, most people have either been to a marina or can imagine a marina. Yeah. And I get them to imagine the boats bumping. So that bumping sound is the audio. Yeah. So I bring all of the senses in my scene. Yeah. We're at the marina, we're here on the Gold Coast, and it was 2012. The more detail you can give in the scene, the less selling you have to do at the end. So when you're doing a 90-minute presentation, what I teach at my Grow Your Speaking Biz is your story, your content, and your sell. So if you're doing a 90-minute presentation, it's 30 minutes for each. But what I tell everybody, and share with everybody at my event is that you're not selling at the sell. The sell is logistics, just telling people what they get and for how much. Your sell is right here. If you set the scene correctly, people will come along for your ride and go, yep, I'm there with you, Sharon, and they start following along. And this is when the real selling happens. So, when you come to my sales training, we don't do hard sells, that old-fashioned, close, yes. It's about sharing your story so people understand you, understand why you're doing it, and they're right there with you. The sell is just a logistics of them signing up. So the more time you can spend in the scene, the better off, or the less selling you'll do, the better off you will be in your ratio of sell. Now, my story just then took about 15 minutes, close to 20 minutes. You need, if you're doing a 90 minute, you need the full 30 minutes or 40 minutes to do your story. So, and I can answer some questions around that as well. All of this concertina's down to 5 minutes or out to a 90-minute presentation. And it's just about the information that you're sharing. But if you're going to concertina this down to a very short presentation, the last thing that you get rid of is the detail in the scene. All the others you can really squash down, but if you're going to spend most of your time in these 6 steps, I would say it's the scene, because it's the you'll probably hear me in the next 5 steps. I'll go, this is the most important step. So they're all important to include. You don't exclude them, but the scene is where you need to spend some time. Now, I've put on the bottom of this slide, now you would find me. That's a really easy way of leading into a story. So if you're coming on stage with a live audience, they'll introduce you, you'll come up on stage. I spoke a little bit about, here online you can relax a little bit, where I spoke about Nick having the VAs, and I'll talk about some of that information a bit later, but talked about the VA and led into my story. If you're doing a live event in front, where you're being introduced and you walk up on stage, you give a nod, handshake, cuddle, whatever is appropriate. I know there's social distancing now, but I'm sure we'll get back to it. You acknowledge the person on stage and you go straight into, now you would find me here. You don't say thanks for coming. You don't say welcome. You don't give a bio, get the person on stage doing that bio, or run a video. So I have a video bio. I come up on stage and the first words out of my mouth is, now you would find me in 2012. Yeah, and go straight in the story, because what happens is you have to get the audience's attention in the first 5 seconds. Some people say 20, that's a load of BS. 5 seconds. Now you find me, in 2012. Now you find me in a fetal position crying in the bathroom. Now you find me taking this call that I never wanted to have. So you use dialogue around that, where they go, what? Because they're expecting you to come on and say, welcome, thanks for coming. I'm Sharon and I'm amazing. Speakers get on stage and talk about how amazing they are. They toot their horn like there's no tomorrow. Don't get me wrong, in my Facebook group, we have a toot the horn day, love it. But right at that moment, in that first 5 seconds, is not the place to do it. They'll work out you're good along the way, or they'll get it in your bio and the introduction and some marketing and so forth. So go straight into your story. It's not about you. It's about bringing them along and them understanding the why. A lot of speakers will get on the stage and tell the audience about the what I have to offer, how good I am, what is it about me, all the awards I've won, this is all the amazing things that I've done. And the biggest mistake they make is they stick to the what. When you train with me and follow my system, you stick to the why. Why are you doing this? And that's why telling your story is very important, because it's a big why factor, not the what. Yeah. So that's the first step. So the second step to your story is your struggle. What's your pain? Who is your villain? What were you told by somebody else? So let me break that down. What was my pain in my Pat story? What was my pain? Nick might give me some feedback. When Pat said to me, you need to go and share your story, what was my pain?
Just waiting for it to come through.
Yeah, it's all good. What was I saying to myself?
Blow to her ego. She was called lazy.
Yeah. I've got childhood issues around lazy. My father used to make sure I wasn't lazy. Yeah, it was, my pain was I didn't have enough time, right? I've got this full-time job, Pat. I'm running the fastest growing franchise in its industry in Australia right now. Like, what are you talking about? I can't fit this in. You know, I've got all of this stuff on my plate. Yeah. So that was my pain. Now, your pain might be, if you're talking about weight loss journey, your pain might be that, you know, you couldn't run with your grandchildren or play in the park, or, you know, you were struggling with your health. If you're telling a health story, you know, what was it for you, almost your lowest point? Yeah, it can be a catastrophe. You may have had a car accident, you know, or the like. When, you know, when I tell my signature story at my Grow You Speaking Biz, you know, it is a catastrophe, let's call it that, you know, and it's quite dramatic. My Pat story is not dramatic. And the reason I share this to break this down for you is because people go, oh, you know, I didn't have an abusive father. I didn't have a druggo mother. You know, I had a great family, great upbringing. I was good at school. You know, what's my story? You know, nothing really bad has happened to me. Now, I share with you a story. A lady came to my event and she was she worked in the bank. And but when she came to my event, she was a broker, and her story was around this couple came into the bank. She was the lending officer. They were first home buyers. They wanted to buy their first home. She went down the tick boxes and they missed a tick and she couldn't give them the loan. And she was heartbroken for them because they were so excited about getting this home. And she went home that day and her struggle was that she couldn't help them and she wanted to. And she decided in that moment to go out on her own and become a broker where she had more resources so she could help people just like them. That's not a catastrophe, but it's a very major, pivotal point in that lady's life. So don't think you have to come up with this dramatic story. Her story is very dramatic. When it's structured, I just gave you the overview, but when it's structured like this, people are there right with her. They understand why she's a broker. Yeah. So don't think that you have to have this massive event. It was just a very strong, pivotal moment for her. Now, who's the villain? Now, this is a bit of a tricky one. Who was the villain in my story? Who was the villain?
Waiting to see.
Yeah, you're right. Who was the villain? Oh, sorry about that, people.
Oh, you were. Your ego. You're resisting. Pat.
Yeah, well, they're quite right. It wasn't about ego, but it was definitely about me. Because who out there that's watching this right now who wants to care to admit to themselves, tell themselves that they can't do something, that they're not good enough, they haven't had enough experience, they haven't had enough training, they haven't done enough, they haven't been in the industry long enough. You become your own villain. I was making up all these excuses why I couldn't do it. Yeah. So Pat was a bit nasty, but he really wasn't my villain because he was quite an advocate, right? He wanted me to go and do it. He was just like, you know, slapping me in the face, letting me know that I could. But I was my villain. Now, in your story, it can be you, and that's why I like this story, because it was me, and it shows that it doesn't have to be a finger point out to somebody else, but a lot of times it is. So my signature story, it's doctors. A doctor was my villain because he was saying I couldn't, I won't, I never will. Yeah. It might be a family member. Some people have, come through my event where it's their parents or someone that, is a mentor to them, or they, look up to and have respect for. And they've told them, well, if you're an author, watching this, you may have heard this as you're writing your book. People go, well, who would want to read your book? What are you going to write in your book? And what do you know about writing a book? So, you may have one or two villains. You may have a lot, but if you're constructing your story, just focus on one. Now, when you introduce somebody, you have to describe that person. Now, if you don't know who Pat is, do you have a picture of who Pat might be? He's a little 5'2", a little Energizer bunny. He's rah, rah, rah. So you're getting this picture of who he might be. Yeah. So if you're telling a story, make sure that when you introduce somebody, whether it be a villain or someone else or a family member, make sure that you describe them. So in my signature story, I introduced my sister into my story. So this is how I introduced my sister. My sister, her name is Kylie. She's 4 years younger than me. She thinks she's 20 years younger than me, and she dresses that way too. She wears those midriff tops when you don't really, shouldn't be wearing midriff tops. And, she's an extrovert, and, there's always drama going on in her life. You getting the picture? You go, I know someone like that. Well, that's me. It's someone in your life. You'll go, yep, I'm there with you. I know this person. I know what they're like. There's someone in my life like her. Yeah. And you can give great detail. If you've got the time, give great detail about that person and have a joke. If you're describing children, I have a lady who has worked with me, and she describes her children amazingly well. So she introduces her son, who hates getting a hug, and she says, I love to go and give him a hug, and that squirm where he goes, oh mum, so it gives you a real thought. Yeah, I know that I've got a son, and I really feel that when she's talking about her son. So make sure that you really give good descriptions about these people. And then what did they tell you? I went through all of the things that I said in my head. I haven't got time. Why, I'm running this, business, and how could I possibly fit in something else? And I was going round and round and round in my head. So the next step, the search. So what did you search for? Where did you go? What did you do while you're searching for the solution? What journey did you go through? Now, this story is a little trickier. This part of the story is tricky too. Where was my search? Where did I go looking? Because if you're in doing weight loss, you might say, I did this diet and that diet. You don't have to name them, but you might say about the search of trying all sorts of things before you found the solution. It might be that you went to doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor trying to find the solution. Where was I searching?
So I got from Michelle. She says the inner search.
Yes. Good one. So, I was trying to unravel it in my head, but then I went down to Pat's event. And even though I was saying, I don't know why I'm here, if someone goes to an event, if you guys hold events, if someone's at your event, they're searching for something. They're in front of you because they are searching for something. And you have the solution for them. So I was there, even though I was saying that I don't know why I'm here, that's my internal struggle, but I was searching for something. Yeah. And this is where you really need to allow people to feel your pain as well, if it's a painful search. Because right now in the room, as I said, they're searching for something. They could be exactly where you were at this point in time. This is, you know, in the room, I suspect, well, I have a presumption that this is where they're at right now. So you really need to connect with your audience in this step, because most likely that's where they are. And they're going, I'm there. I've been to so many events that told me I was going to earn $1 million and drink margaritas at the Bahamas, and there's no flights there. And I've been to 100 and I still can't get there. So they're doing that search, and they've probably been searching for a very long time. So in this section, in this step, make sure you really share the search and the feelings, get into the kinesthetic of how you felt during that search. And you can, you know, especially in a dramatic, let's talk like catastrophe feeling, a lot of times, you know, if you're coming out of recovery, if you've been injured in an accident or for something else, you know, that recovery comes into this search, and it can be quite emotional around this time. So I just want to talk about a side note here. During these 6 steps, you're taking your audience on a very emotional roller coaster, and it's very important that you do that. You need to take them to the depths of despair. Now, my story wasn't traumatic as such, but in an emotional traumatic story, you need to take them there. They need to go down in the depths of despair, and I'll show you how you start to bring them out. But really now they're very low in the emotions, and so you have to be aware of your audiences, where they are at that emotional state. And in my Grow Your Speaking piece, we delve into that a lot deeper. But some people want to share their own story, but they're a little bit worried about upsetting people in the room. Now, I have people in my signature story crying each time I share it, every time. And I know that when I allow, or give the space for someone in my audience to have a cry, I know that's a good thing. Because we all know when we have a good cry, right, we always feel better after. And sometimes people in the room have never cried about what they're thinking about, that emotion or that circumstance that has connected with them to me, that it may be the first time they've actually had a good cry about it. And I think that's a good thing. You know, as I said, after you have a cry, it's always much better. And sometimes for the first time in their life, they're going, I'm with you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change my life. I've been searching forever, and this is my pivot. This is my turning point. So if you're worried about the audiences getting, you know, too emotional, don't. Go there, take them there. They will thank you for it later on. You'll get stories, you'll get emails, you'll get phone calls, texts, messages telling you because you did, it changed their life. Yeah. And if you want to, you know, I'm going to give you the opportunity to meet up with me after here. I'm not going to sell you anything. There's nothing to buy. But if you want to, I'm going to give you the opportunity to meet up with me and talk about building your story a little bit closer, and I can give you some more detail around that if you do have a traumatic story, and how deep to take them emotionally and where to pull back. Yeah, because you have to hold your poise on stage. You have to make sure that you're not rocking in the corner in a fetal position, sucking your thumb. You have to make sure that you take them deep enough for emotion, but you stay poised. Because sometimes, you know, people come and work with me and they're sharing a story they've never shared with their family before. They're sharing it for the very first time, and it's very emotional for them. So if you have an emotional story, reach out to me and I'll share some great, more in-depth tips that we just can't cover off here today on how to hold your poise and get through that emotion. Yeah, from your side of the fence. Yep. So the next step is the shift. What was the shift for you? What happened when you had that light bulb moment? When you went, I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore. This is the worst I'm ever going to be, because tomorrow I'm going to get better and better and better. Or was it you found a product or a service or a modality? As some of you might have found hypnosis. I'm a hypnotherapist. If you didn't know, I'm accredited with the American board, and I have an event coming up at the end of this month where I accredit people as qualified hypnotherapists. So it might be I found hypnotherapy that helped me and now I want to share it with others. It might be a physical product. It might be something that you bought, someone gave you, and you used it, it changed your life, and now you are selling it to help others because you're so passionate and believe in its results. So how you know when the shift is, you usually start the sentence with, when this happened, blah, blah, blah. That's when the shift happened. When I bought that product, it changed my life. When I attended Sharon Jurd's event, I changed my life. What was it for you when that shift happened? When you knew that there was no turning back? When you knew life was never going to be the same? When was my shift? When did I shift my thinking? I had two little shifts. I was a bit sneaky. The first one at Pat's event, when I went, I'm not talking about HydroKleen. I'm going to talk about Sharon Jurd events. I'm going to play full out in this. And I'm going to make sure that, even though I didn't know what I was talking about, I was going to grow into that. That I could have taken the easy road and went, I can talk about HydroKleen all day long. But those words in the back of my head, at that time, because Pat said, you can do that with your eyes closed. Well, going to that event, if I just talked about HydroKleen, I would have been doing it with my eyes closed and really never had the shift. But the shift continued when I got back to the pool, when I got home, and I really made the decision that I was going to make changes so I could make this happen. Yeah. And I knew things were never going to be the same coming off the back of Pat's event. So what was it for you? What was your shift? Yeah. And the next step is the solution. What was the solution? Where did you find it? How did you find the answer? Did someone share some information with you? Did you go and research more? You heard about, a modality. You might have heard about hypnosis and you went and said, oh, Sharon's holding an event. Let's go and see what's going on there, and went along. My solution was hiring 3 people into my business so I could get out. I found the answers on my piece of paper when I was writing it down. The answers came from within me. When I had that time to reflect, who's found the best answers when you just sit quietly? Like just when you just sit, and your unconscious mind brings those answers to you. That's what happened for me. But someone might have dragged you along somewhere. You might have been kicking and screaming to an event. Because I know I run events all the time. There's usually someone come along going, oh, my friend brought me and I don't even know why I'm here. I was a bit like that at Pat's, right? So it's not always that you went looking. It might have been someone just threw you in the deep end and said, you've got You got to do this. Because every story is different, right? Yeah. Now let's talk about the last step. It's called the seed. Now the seed is a sentence with less than 15 words. Now I love a question. It can be a statement or a question. It doesn't matter. What was my seed? What was it that I shared at the end of my story? This is a trick question. I've been tricky so far, but this is a real trick question. What was my seed at the end of my story? Does anyone hazard a guess?
So we had, I decided to play full out.
Yeah, that was midway. Yeah, that was when I was at the event. Yeah. I'll tell you, I didn't share one. Because the reason I didn't share one is because I want to give you some examples. Yeah. Because in the 6 steps of this process, this is where you change it up every time, or most times. So your story is set in. So when someone comes in to you and says, can you come on my webinar or on my podcast or, you know, to my live event, as I said, there's 3 sections. Yeah. So we're talking about the very first section, which is your story. And from your story, you will lead into your content. So people come and say, Sharon, can you come and speak to us on growing a franchise? That's my content. My story is still the same. Sharon, can you come and talk to us about working in a business with your partner, your husband? Because we've got a lot of couples in business and this is really relevant to them. I have that content, but my story is the same, right? So you'd the question I get asked a lot is, does your story have to be relevant to your content? No, it does not. So me having lunch with Pat, yeah, sure, we led into going to his speaking event, which he doesn't run now. I'm really disappointed because the event I went to is, you know, it was amazing, but he doesn't run it that way now. But it doesn't run it at all. But it has a relevance, and that's why I like sharing it. On my signature story that I share at my Grow Your Speaking Biz, and when I do, you know, big 90-minute presentations, is that it has nothing to do with my content. It has no relevance. It's a dramatic, traumatic story that has no relevance to any content I speak about. How you bring it into relevance is you change the seed. Yeah. And during the solution, you just massage it a little bit to bring it into the seed. So I want to show you how I could have finished off Pat's story depending on the content I was going to talk about. And then I'll give you some examples of these sentences. And I do this off the cuff every time. And I'm like going, I should write some of these down. I don't. I just share them off the cuff as they come to me. But the one thing I do say is with this sentence or phrase, you always end it with a pause. You always end it with a pause to give people time to ponder, to go, yeah, I agree. Yes, that's me. She's right. I need to take action. Whatever they are saying, you need to give them time to pause. That will you pause to give them time to ponder. Yeah. If you move too quickly, they're like, oh, I don't know. So give them time to answer that question. So if I was telling Pat's story, you'll see how I led out of it saying it was a speaking event. Now I coach speaking and coaching clients. And I led into that. So my solution, I massaged into that. And I could have left the seed at the end of that going, you know, do you want to earn 6 figures being an international speaker like I do? Do you have a message to share? with the entire world? Have you got a story that somebody needs to hear? Is it your turn? Is it your time to change other people's lives? You can feel with that pause comes the ponder. Yeah, I have a story I need to share. Now, if someone asked me to speak on growing your business, you heard me mention at the end of Pat's story that I talked about systems and processes. I started to put systems and processes in my business to take myself out of my business. So I've done that, and I'll go, I can, and I do this with my signature one as well, because, you know, it's about drama. I say, could you be taken out of your business for 18 months and it's thrive and survive without you? Could you have a business that expanded into 44 countries, yet you spend less than 5 hours a week in that business? Is your business at the point where you thought it was going to be right now? Have you reached your goals in your business already? And see how that silence, you're answering the question. If you're there right, you know, if you're an audience member and you're there right with me, yep, Sharon's at the marina, she's with Pat, you know, and oh my God, she's been, you know, my business hasn't grown. And how you lead into your content is, I'm going to share with you my 6 S's of storytelling. I'm going to share with you my 5 easy steps to freedom and success. I'm going to share with you the 3 action steps that I took to lose this amount of weight. I'm going to share with you my 5-step process of building an online presence. And so, you know, in that content, if you come to my Grow Your Speaking Biz, I share with you how to build that content, how to build those steps and how to frame that. Yeah. But that's how you lead into your content. And you change up the scene, massage the solution a little and change up the seed. Yeah. So here it is, the scene, the struggle, the search, the shift, the solution, and the seed. Think about your story, place it in these sections, and if you flow through that in that succinct way, your audiences will sit up, take notice, and take action. Now, I said I wasn't going to sell anything, and I'm not, but if you're building your story, for everybody that's on this call and watching this video, I'm happy to organise a 30-minute free discovery session with me. I call it discovery session because, you know, it's a great name. I don't know why. But I can talk about how you build your story. You can present me your story and we can brainstorm it out and put it in the right order. Where will I put this in that order? We can identify your challenges in building your speaking business, how I get paid. You know, I just counted up the other day, I'm up to 42 events this year in COVID, you know, of live speaking events. I had 17 overseas speaking events this year. Didn't happen, but that's about average. I do about 20 international gigs a year. If you want to build a business around speaking, I'm happy to spend 30 minutes with you. There's no sell in that. You just come along and make a time with me. Go to that link, make a time, and I'll help you to really, because this is, you know, a very short time, so we want to make sure that we're you know, I'm helping you the best I can, because it's going, oh, you know, that's all great, but this doesn't look right. You can run through it with me. And I can talk about all sorts of things, mindset or money block. I said I was a hypnotherapist. You know, we can work on those areas as well. So questions, I know we're getting on for time. Now, Nick, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a minute, and then I can come back into the chat box. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll pop the link into chat for people to follow if you want to take advantage of that special offer. So thanks for that, Sharon.
Yeah, sorry. Someone was saying, if step 5 is solution, I missed that part. Yes, so solution is where did you find the answer? So for my story, it was by the pool. I wrote it down. It came from within, that quiet time. You know, it came to me about what resources did I need? Who did I have to hire to get me out of the business? So it might be for you buying a product. It might be for someone telling you about something. You may have found the weight loss program or the hypnosis I mentioned. You might go, oh, you know, I came along to Sharon's event and hypnosis changed me, so now I want to, you know, share it out with others. Yeah. So Ron, that was 5, the solution. How do you structure something which is a gradual change? Good point. Because, you know, a lot of people say, well, you know, I've done a lot of self-development, and over the years, you know, this gradual growth of mine, what we do is we nut it down to a pivotal point. So your shift is where you'll go, okay, where did I shift that I decided that personal development was going to be for me? And then you can build your story on that. And so usually your shift is where we can go either way with. But and some people go, oh, I've got 1,000 stories to tell. You know, there's so much happened in my life. We just tell one. No one wants to hear your whole life story. I'm telling you, it's boring. No one wants to hear that. They just want to hear the pivotal moment that was important to you to change. Yeah. Awesome. Great questions, Nick.
There's lots of discussion happening on chat here.
Yeah.
But maybe if there's any questions, if someone wants to unmute, and let's just ask.
Yeah, I'd love to chat. I think there was someone here saying, I've written down 3 as the shift, and then she went to 6, the seed. Solution, yeah. So the solution was number 5, seed was number 6. Yeah.
There was one question back here that I thought was quite interesting, and it was, if I can find it, it's really about why a story. What's the point of having a story? Like, you know, does anyone care about the story?
Yes. So a lot of people say to me, "Who care about my story?" And I go, "Yeah, that's just you're being the villain now," because people will buy on the why, not the what. And so, why are you doing this? Why are you passionate about it? So some people come to me and say, you know, I solve this problem for people. You could be doing 1,001 other things. Why are you doing that? Why are you so passionate? Why you believe, it's great for me. So these are the 4 whys that we cover off on. The 4 whys. Why you? Why them? Why now? And why this? So in your story, you cover off on that. So, you know, why me? Because, you know, I'm doing it. I've been through this drama. Why them? Because they're sitting right in front of you. They're in search. They need to change. Why now? So you'll normally say, people go, oh, I'll do your event next year, Sharon. No, the next one. And I go, well, I'm not doing it till next year. Grow Your Speaking Biz is only in August every year. So they've got to do it now. If they want to do it now and want to make a change, they'll do it now. And then why this? Why is your product or service better than anybody else's? You know, why would you come along and do my hypnosis at the end of the month? Why would you come along and do my Grow Your Speaking Biz? Because I have a real strategy, a real system. People tell you how to do things. What to do. They never show you the how. So at my events, I show you exactly how. I run Grow Your Coaching Biz. event, I show you how to run a coaching session, not just, I'll go and coach. Yeah. Loved your presentation. A completed Survey Monkey form. We will now be sent a calendar link with the time options that we call. Yes. So yeah, Albert, it's I'll get that your form, and then we'll send you a link, and you'll be able to book in 30 minutes with me. Yeah, fill out the form. It's there's no sell, so it's not like you're going to get on 30 minutes and spend 10 minutes with me, and I'm going to sell for 20 minutes. That's not how I do it. And I show, if you want to know how to sell without selling, just come see me, book in a 30-minute, and I'll show you how to do that as well.
Sharon.
Any other questions?
Yep.
Thank you.
Hi, Ron.
Hi. Oh, good. I wasn't sure whether you heard me or not. I'd like to go back to step 3, search.
Yes.
You mentioned there about taking your reader on an emotional roller coaster. So do you have sort of like a, how would I say, like a format of doing that?
Yeah, so if you follow these six steps, they'll actually be, when you take them on the search, that will actually delve them down, because they're desperate. I'll use some words that they may say to themselves. They're desperate. They're on their last legs. This is the last thing I'm going to try. If this doesn't work for me, nothing will. So in that search, they're really there. But when you're talking about your search, they're just going to drop straight down in there. Yeah. When I do my signature story, I set the scene, and I get to the pain very quickly. So I'm dropping them down because it's a very emotional. So I drop them down straight away in that emotion, and I get them to sit there for quite some time. Now, when I come out, I bring them out during my solution, and I use some humor to make sure that I'm lifting them up, because I don't want to leave them there. Because when you're sharing your content and doing your sell, they're not going to be with you. So you need to bring them back out. It's very important that I'm not a funny person. I'm not saying you need to be a comedian, but just some humor around your story to bring them back out at the end. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sort of does. So in your presentations, are you always talking about your personal story, or you're talking about your client's personal story?
You can do both. I prefer that it's your story, but I had a very young lady come to my event, and she didn't want to share her personal story, but she works with teenagers who have very dramatic stories. And so she shares from stage with permission of a young girl named Tasman, and she shares her story. And it works still very, very well. Very well. But if you come to coach with me, I'd be going, give me your story. And I would push you as a coach to find your story. But if it's very relevant to share somebody else's, it works very, very well. I know someone who shares a story as a third person, and it's really their story. And in the end, they say, that person was me. Yeah. So you think they're telling a story about somebody else, still bring you along that emotional roller coaster, and then it just drops you straight in going, it's me. Yeah. Very powerful.
What about integrity? What about beating up the story to make it more dramatic?
Sorry, you just cut out a little bit, but I think
I'm sorry. I said, what about integrity? I mean, if you have a mildly interesting story and you think, oh my God, the audience will fall asleep, I'm so boring. How would you go about beating? Would you beat up the story to make it worse?
Yes. So the answer is yes. People have challenged me on this before, but I get asked this question a lot. So I call it embiggen. And I didn't make this word up. It's actually, I heard it's now in the English dictionary. And it actually came embiggen, E-M-B-biggen, B-I-G-G-E-N, embiggen. What it means, it actually, I found out, I heard it from another lady who shared it, and she said it was her story, her word, and she made it up. But then I heard it got into the English dictionary because the damn Simpsons share the word. You know, the Simpsons cartoon. I never watch it, but apparently they say embiggen quite a lot. And because of that, it's got into the English dictionary. Anyway, true story. Anyway, but it's called embiggen. So you can enlarge what you did without lying. Yeah. So embiggen is taking it to the, you know, a little bit bigger. I'll give you an example. Some people in sales, you know, when you're a one-man band in business and they go always on your website, when you're talking to people, you say we, the team, you know, it's always just you. That's embiggening. So you go, oh yes, my team and I, you know, will get that done for you. And it's just you. Yeah. So you'll hear people say, use that. So you embiggen yourself. In the stories, sometimes, and I'm going to be really honest here, sometimes you change the story a little. Yeah. So in my story, sometimes I share about the doctor. So I said the villain is my doctor. So I describe the doctor, you know, he's in a white coat, he's got the stethoscope, you know, and he's a balding man and he's standing over my bed. That's not what he looked like. My doctor didn't have the white coat on, but I need to share that little bit so people get the picture that's the doctor, because that's what you expect in your mind to see standing at the end of your bed. He's got the white coat on, he's a balding, aging man. I really can't remember what he looked like because I had a head trauma and I don't know what he looked like, but I have to describe the villain. And so that part of my story is embiggened. Yeah. Yeah, it says here, never let the facts get in the way of a good story. Yeah. You know, as long as you're using it in a great way and you're not using it to rip anyone off or deceive anybody, I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Awesome. Excellent. Oh, this has been a great night. Thanks very much for sharing your story, Sharon, and how you got there and sharing some of those tips and insights as well. There's a lot of discussion happening in chat with all of the points that you're putting up there as well too. So thanks.
Yeah, just if anybody, sorry Nick to cut you off, you know, just reach out to me on social media if you've got more questions, or do the 30-minute free discovery. You know, I'm happy to, you know, answer any of those questions in other formats. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I've dropped your link into chat there, so obviously people can find you there. And I guess your social media links are on your website too.
Yeah, so if you just, you know, Google Sharon Jurd, you'll find me.
Pretty uncommon name.
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, look, thanks again for an awesome night. And I know there's sort of people saying there's
thank you.
Good takeaways and all that. So awesome job. And yes, I encourage you, if you're looking at creating your story or looking to get some help, go and click on that link and book a discovery session in with Sharon. Actually, I think I will too. Can I do that?
Yes, of course you can. Yeah.
Always into creating a good story.
Thank you. Everyone's saying thank you. So I just want to say thank you back for the feedback I'm seeing coming in the chat box there.
Awesome. And Aldwin has just reminded me.
Yes.
The giveaways. So thanks for that. All right. So we do have some giveaways tonight. So let's do our special little screen to share. The first one, what have we got? We've got, well, since Aldwin had sort of kept on reminding me there, I know you've got some giveaways for tonight, so tell us about that, Aldwin.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, I have 2 tickets to my How to Gain $1 Million worth of free publicity global workshop, which is online. The next one is on October 13 from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, so Sydney time, and 10 till 12 Queensland time.
Awesome. So what we'll do is, can everyone see the wheel? Have I got that right? Yep, great. All right, so I've got all your names in here. We're going to spin the wheel, and the lucky winner is going to win, what's this, 1 ticket, and then we'll draw another one?
Yeah, we've got 2 tickets. They're worth about $50 each.
Oh, $50, excellent. All right, let's draw and see who's in the who's the winner here. Drum roll,
luck.
please. And that would be Suzanne Goldsmith. Is Suzanne here? Just unmute and let us know you're here. I can't see everybody at the moment.
Yes, I am here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Wonderful.
So you're the first lucky winner. So maybe if you just drop your email into chat there to Aldrin. Down the bottom of chat, you can select Aldrin's name and you can just shoot it through your email and then you can connect. And then one more there for Aldrin. Another ticket to the $1 million worth of free publicity. And that'll be Donna.
Yeah. Congratulations.
So, Donna, just unmute yourself and let us know you're here.
I'm still here.
Oh, is Donna here?
Yeah, she's there.
She is here. Great. Fantastic. Excellent. Thanks for that, Aldrin. And
Thank you.
Karen Clark, you have a business blueprint strategy session. Tell us about that.
You can tell us, Nick.
Yes, I've done one of these. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's basically an hour. It can go on for an hour and a half. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Where we do a deep dive into what it is that you would love your life and business to be like. We have a technique and method to actually bring that out. And it's a very, very powerful session where we set up a very clear, specific picture of where you're going, where you're going to end up in the next 3 or 5 years, so that you can use some of the techniques that we teach about the universal laws and the quantum field to actually make it happen. The invisible techniques that cause your results here.
Actually, it's pretty amazing as well too. So Karen spent some of her time with me, running me through one of those sessions to get me sort of clear on what my future is. And yeah, well, I have to say it was truly inspiring, and it's amazing what comes up. So this is a really good prize for anyone that wins this. And yeah, so let's spin the wheel and see who our lucky winner is here. Tracy Taylor.
Wow, it's
Tracy here.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
There she is up the top. Awesome. Fantastic. So maybe if you share your contact details with Karen in chat there, just find Karen's name down the bottom and you guys can get in touch with each other. Awesome. And lucky last, we have a book. So Sharon is a world-renowned author there, best-selling author. What have you got? What's the book there?
So how to grow your business faster than your competitor. And I'm going to throw in The Extraordinary Women in Franchising as well. They're both my books. So they're international #1 bestseller. And it's The Secrets to Freedom and Success. So there's 5 easy steps to focus on in your business there. And I've interviewed some amazing women like Janine Ellis from Boost Juice, and you know, really amazing women in franchising with Baker's Delight, Boost Juice, Ella Bachet, and so forth. So yeah.
Awesome. And I've spun the wheel, and our lucky winner is James Henderson.
Yay.
So do we have James here? Yes. Are you here, James? I can see him on the call there. So yes, he's here. There's a yep in the chat there. Awesome. So James, if you drop into chat there to Sharon, just pop your details in, and Sharon can shoot those books out to you as well. So congratulations there, all our lucky winners. Let's get us off the share here. And thanks again, Sharon. And also, reminder, tomorrow we have business owners, the office hours, so at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We have office hours, which is a no agenda, no speaker chat. It's bring along a coffee, cup of tea, glass of wine, whatever is your beverage at 10 o'clock in the morning. And really is just a time to have a discussion about anything to do with your business and online strategies. You might have a question. You might be looking for a recommendation for an app or a strategy. You might be stuck in something. You just need someone else to provide an opinion or a bit of help or a push in a particular direction. And everyone that's along there share their own sort of ideas and experience. So there is no one expert there to tell you what the golden trinket is. It really is just like meeting at a cafe, and entrepreneurs and business owners sort of chatting through some of the online stuff and some business stuff. So you're welcome to come along. We'll put the link into chat. In fact, the link is in chat. So come and register that. That's on Zoom as well too at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Next week is, I think next week's about Facebook. So so that'll be the same time as this week. So Tuesday at, now I've got to get this right because I know daylight savings kicked in some places. So I'm just going to say 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And so make your adjustments for, you know, your various daylight saving times around the globe, or around Australia and New Zealand. Queensland doesn't have daylight saving. We haven't quite got there yet. So thanks once again, Sharon, for your energy, your inspiration tonight. Thanks everyone else for coming along tonight, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow or next week. Go and have a great night.
Thank you. Awesome.
See ya.
Thank you.
Yeah.